Welcome to another episode of Successfully Live. I'm Adam O'Donnell, the co-founder of Successfully. Today, I'm excited to be here with Catherine Blackmore. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Catherine's the Global Vice President of Customer Success at Oracle Marketing Cloud. Today, we got a cool topic, which is just employee success and basically applying those customer success principles to your team first.
To me, it's the foundation of how we're going to help our customers be successful. Because if you think about it, you really cannot have customer success without employee success. And so let me describe a little bit about what I mean by about that. So if you think about what a customer success manager does every day, they're helping a customer understand how to get to value with your product. They're having a customer excited about what's possible. They're teaching a customer new things. They're responding to issues. If you have a disengaged employee, or if you have an employee who doesn't understand what they're supposed to be doing, I think it's going to be pretty difficult for that customer of yours to be excited, also engaged with your company. More likely, they're going to look like your employee.
When did you become aware of it?
Well, I think when you're small. So I've, throughout my, career in customer success, I've had the opportunity to participate in very small teams where you've hired people from the get-go and you really trained them to be your proxy, and they really resemble you. They, even in their pattern of how they talk to the customer, they kind of emulate what you're trying to do. And in some ways that's easier. I'm not suggesting it's super easy, but when you don't have a structured way of onboarding, you have a team that sits close to you, they can follow your lead. It's when you start to scale and actually build out that team beyond, your first 5, and you start to actually open up new offices where you have to communicate over different means and get people started you're not going to actually be able to onboard them yourself. You're not going to be sitting on every single customer call. It's at that moment that this becomes a problem.
Could you give us some examples of some of the things that you're doing to try to make sure that everyone's on that same page and succeeding as an employee?
If I were to just go a little bit further around, how do you even do that? Because I think this is the important piece. Because one of the things that I uncovered also is kind of my aha moment. And it wasn't necessarily when we started to scale either our customer success team at Jigsaw or even at Salesforce. It was actually here at Oracle when I've had the opportunity to work with 5 different acquired companies where you've got the challenge of integrating people, not just technology, which I would argue is probably the harder job of all of them. But it was really in that moment where it was interesting to hear feedback from the team. Part of it was just listening. Like, we listen to our customers, we're listening to our people, and they're saying, it would be great to have a little bit of employee success love like we have customer love. And that was that aha moment. And it was that time where I said, we've actually got a lot of great programs and ways we think about the customer journey, how we onboard a customer, how we handle an issue and an escalation, and we swarm on that particular issue. And in many ways, too, when we look at when a customer leaves, we examine the data or even the escalation data to figure out what we could do better. It was that moment where I shared it with my leadership team, like, guys, we're in the perfect spot to do this because we have the model of how to deliver employee success.
When did you first notice that there was something that was breaking a little bit in terms of you got 5 different companies here and not everyone's on the same page?
It doesn't take much. I mean, you can talk to an employee and ask them, how easy is it for you to do your job every day? And if they tell you, look, I don't know, I'm struggling to find content, I'm not sure, where I can search for these things, you're kind of noticing it in the types of conversations what they're having with their frontline manager. I mean, it's pretty easy early warning systems. And then quite frankly, I also look at, like I would when I enter any customer success job, I look at the data. I talk to my employees just like my customers, like, what do you love? What is a problem? Because I want to know both of those things. And then if I looked at attrition data, why did people leave? We do the same thing with customers. What do we have to go solve if they're telling us why they're leaving? And not just do they left to a competitor or it's because of price. Same thing with people. Oh, I left to go to a competitor. Oh, it was all about I want to make more money. Yeah, there's more things going on than that.
So what are you doing around critical employees that you have on your team?
Well, I think one of the things that's really important is to understand, just as you do with your customers, you're really trying to examine, where everybody is and what you need to do in terms of your high growth employees, folks that are really high potential employees, and folks that if you were to invest in a lot of time and effort, would they ever get there and would they leave anyway? I think that's really important. Again, no different than working with our customers. We need to really think about, as managers and leaders, where do we even spend our time with our people? That's tough to do. One of the things that I would say I carried with me from my professional past is this concept of talent review. Super important. And you might get a little squirrely about that. Like, what really is that? Are we stack ranking our people? I hate that. And that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is really having an understanding of the competencies of your team. And I think it's even for the smallest of companies, I think it's really good to think about how early should I start thinking about my competencies. Now, in other forums, I've talked about the importance of having a purpose around customer success. So, assuming that you've done that, you have a really good understanding of the people you need to hire. And then from that, you can develop the competencies. We need them to be really good at delivering value with our customers. We need to have them challenge our customers on the way they think. We need to have a certain level of expertise. All those things you need to develop. And then at talent review, it's a process. It's the ability to do a performance review with you. How are you doing? And then where do you want to go? Do you want to be in a VP role someday? And what's your growth potential? And being able to think about that. And guess what? It changes every year. Your life may change this next year, and maybe your priorities might be different, and that's okay. And so that helps inform how we would actually think about an employee journey and what we would be putting in front of you to be successful.
That makes sense. And so I can see a lot of companies saying, well, isn't that HR's job to go and make sure that our team's happy? Obviously, that's not how y'all look at it. So, I mean, how do you involve HR in this at
Yeah,
all?
they're huge. I mean, I always consider, human resources as one of the most critical partners I have in any company, doesn't matter, large or small, and really getting them on board to help you really think about competencies because there's a lot of tools out there, even small companies can tap into around how to think about this. And it really does help you when you start to build out a bit more training and how to even get to somebody for, certain skill sets. And there's even, as you know, great training out there within customer success that you can either tap into, have your team go do, or even start to build yourself that can build out a successful employee, customer success employee program.
What is the very first thing I can do to start really focusing on my employees and making sure that they're succeeding?
I would say the very first thing you should do, and assuming, let's just say you're the first person on the scene, you could be an individual contributor or you could be that first manager. I know I was at one point in my career. The first thing that I did is that first employee that I'm hiring, have them actually develop wiki content, have them actually establish what do I do every day? How do I do my job? And then the next person that you hire, have them look at that information, have them edit that information, allow it to be a living and breathing document. You'll be so glad you did that because if you don't do that, just imagine what it would look like if you were to try to document that tribal knowledge after you have 5, 10, 20 people.
Is that more employee onboarding? So is that the first part of success that we're talking about here?
Great question, because I think it's a bit of both, meaning, the first thing that an employee is going to experience, of course, is how to get started. And if you can kind of mentally think about a wiki page and how would you actually orient yourself around, I'm a new person, how would I get started? Well, okay, what are the critical things I need to be doing? What are the critical links and documents I should be reading? I want somebody that's new to really think that way and start to build that out in a wiki because they're learning as they go. And they're also contributing to a wiki because there might be some things missing or things need to be edited. And if you've got a small team, that's a great way to get started versus having, some formal way to build out, training videos or training modules, which by the way, will happen. But what you've developed for a wiki is going to inform that.
Could you give us kind of like an annual timeline of how you're engaging with your employees?
It's a really important question to ask because I think a lot of times people wait until the performance review or wait until a crisis to actually have a coaching moment. In many ways as managers, and we think about this a lot, I mean, my leaders and my managers have to be my proxy and do this every day. And there are moments where you just have to know this is a coachable moment. I have to take this on and really take it on as a training moment. And those sometimes can happen episodically, like, in a moment where it's a customer crisis or I'm just noticing some behavior or I'm noticing a win, complimenting someone on actually getting the job done well and right. I mean, those things are really important too in terms of celebrating. But then I would also say there has to be some formality though to having a conversation because unfortunately, if we don't have some level of formality, it always tends to be, hey, come to my office, let's talk about your customers. And then we have customer conversations, but it's not as important as, how are we getting you to where you want to go? And checking in with you and how are you doing? And let's just see where you're at and the development plan that we've established. And for us, it's an annual basis because in doing that, we're setting up goals at the start of the fiscal year. What do we need to accomplish? Let's think about this next year. What does success look like? And then start to line up that employee success plan and then have milestones and times to check in. And then by the time we do a performance review, it's, we know what we need to be talking about. It's not an awkward conversation. We talk a lot already. And for us, that then leads into our talent review where we take all that data and start to map out who's ready to go places, who's ready to take on new assignments.
Who owns employee success in a company? Is it the VP of customer success, or are you looking at having someone else who's part of their job because we're all super busy already?
Yeah, I would say it depends on how big your company is, of course, but I would say it has to be on everybody's mind, truly. It has to be. And then from there, once you start to grow, you can start to think about like, do I need to hire somebody that actually thinks about this and develops things? Is it in the customer success team? Is it on the HR team? Regardless, you need to make certain that you're investing time in it.
Things are going well, you've made progress with your employees. Like, how do you make sure that they stay motivated continually?
I think celebrating success and wins is so critical. You think about how you would celebrate success with a customer, it's just as important. And in many ways, the enthusiasm that an employee has because they've done a great job, needs to be a teachable moment for others to learn from. It's something that can be a part of how they would stay on the team. It just creates a culture where we celebrate wins. And I know some companies, if you think about a sales culture where you've got the gong and, people are pretty familiar with that. I think in customer success, you have to have a similar thing you do. And, when I was at Jigsaw, one of the things we did, and my organization was responsible for renewals, one of the things we did just to celebrate the win is that who's going to get the first renewal in this month? And I gave them a cup, and it was just with a Sharpie, I drew out, first renewal of the month, and it was one of the little Starbucks cups with a little Starbucks card and copies on me. And what was great is it became a bit of a team spirit where everyone would stack up their cups. In fact, we had one employee when he was on vacation was able to get a renewal in and took a picture of him drinking Starbucks and said, "Catherine, I'm charging this to you."
As a leader, what percentage of your time are you putting in focusing on your employees' success?
I would say it's as equal as to my customers' success. In some cases, sometimes it's even more because I spend more time trying to make certain my team is enabled, they're successful, my managers are successful. I'm thinking really every day, every week, what's the critical content they need to have? What are the measures of whether or not we are doing a good job or not? Just like with customers, you have to have your instrumentation panel of employee success. Do we have at-risk employees? Is that going up? How are we doing on onboarding new employees? Do we have gaps? What are they telling us? Constantly thinking about fine-tuning what we're doing is an always on scenario because we cannot afford to have our people leave and not be successful.
So what are you doing to develop your high performers?
One of the things, especially when you start to grow, you're going to start to identify the people that are just really able to accelerate. And we know, everyone talks about it, war on talent. Everybody's trying to find customer success managers. How many people, how many forums you go to and everybody says, I'm hiring, I need people. You've got to keep your talent. So having programs, just like you have programs to keep your employees, your customers, how do you think about translating that into your employees? Meaning, I've identified, some real high potential folks. Some of the folks might be happy doing the job of just managing customers, but I think even more importantly, who are your future leaders? Because you may not have managers yet, and you want to think about who you could develop, or you may have managers and you need to add more. And so for us, we think a lot about, our aspiring leaders and how we can wrap a program around that so we can actually develop them and hire from within versus going outside, which really drives a great way we can really have an employee stay with us for life.
Can you tell us any more about that program? I mean, it sounds incredible.
Well, it's something that, I would say as a strength of Oracle is we've got an amazing amount of resources to really develop world-class leaders. And that's something that I know I certainly love being a part of Oracle. And it's something that we, really want to impart upon our employees. And so we think a lot about how we train future leaders here. And it isn't just about, obviously, the people management side of things. There are greater concepts that we really want people to be ready for in terms of taking that first leadership role. Things like managing change. I mean, think about the industry we participate in, even customer success. You have to be agile and you have to be able to be resilient in front of your team. How do you actually communicate with impact? Another critical skill. We think a lot about that. I really pride the fact that we've put together a great program to be able to develop our folks and take that first step in leadership.
What are some other things that you're actually doing to keep the talent with you and get them excited about being at Oracle and customer success?
Sure. And I think the thing about, in particular, managers and leaders, I know people, this isn't, something that this is a known stat, which is, a lot of people leave because of their manager, right? Not because of the company. And how we actually, what I was mentioning about training our managers and our leaders is so critical. But then I think about, what are we doing to keep our managers and our leaders, and having a program dedicated to just that team is super important. And, one of the things that I think is so critical is having our leaders share their thought leadership with the world. we're doing a lot of amazing things, and I want them to have an opportunity to build their brand, to be able to engage with other leaders around the globe and share what they're doing. I think it's just another special thing you can do because it really taps into, like people say, when you're really kind of grabbing their heart and grabbing their mind around why they want to be here, and having them have a connection with you that helps them build something greater than themselves is just so important.
That's great. I mean, this is interesting, but I mean, how do you, so if you are encouraging thought leadership, have you ever had a time where it's like, okay, that's a little much? Because I mean, just you might be an interesting example. You're on the road talking to customers as well as being a great thought leader. Like, how do you kind of manage that?
The fact of the matter is that our day job consumes us. And so, yeah, I think the fact that whether it's I'm a manager and I've got a lot of people in customer situations I need to be owning and working with, or I'm a CSM, and again, I've got a lot of customers I need to be working with, but we definitely encourage and want to inspire our team to participate in whatever vehicle possible. And I think it is a balancing act. I mean, we try to create some bandwidth and some room for folks to be able to do some stretch assignments, certainly. I mean, that's a whole nother topic in and of itself. But one of those stretch assignments could be, participate in helping us, deliver content at an upcoming event. Or it could be, help us develop this content for a particular article we need to get out there to our customers or to customer success. And I think I know myself, I have to challenge myself sometimes to just get outside of my day job to give back or to get engaged, because it's through those opportunities that you kind of find out what's going on outside of your walls. That's so important, because I know by giving somebody time to be able to do that, they're going to bring back so much more into the company.
Say I'm a customer success leader managing a team of CSMs, like what are some other things that I can be doing to make sure that they're succeeding?
Sure. I think there's a couple of things that we've really spent some time training our managers and leaders around. And the first one is, and there's some great training out there. I've worked with some great colleagues on content on this. And that is, as leaders, sometimes we are so apt to tell our team what to do and give them the answers. It's really easy just when somebody comes into your office and said, oh my gosh, this customer's on fire. Here's the situation. I know exactly what to do. Here's what you need to do. That's not really helping them grow. So we've really spent a lot of time, with this concept of asking powerful questions and not dishing up the answer so that it really helps develop critical thinking skills. Because otherwise, if you can imagine, you have all the answers. Well, guess what? You're going to be solving all the problems. And how are you really going to scale yourself? So that's an important shift in what we're doing to really mature our managers so that, quite frankly, that matures our team. But the other really important one, and this is another common, I would say, area to be missed. We talked about how important it is for a manager to be always on, and certainly coaching in key moments, but then having a structured time to meet to review your accomplishments. One of the things that was interesting, we went through a little training exercise at our last leadership summit that I run every year to just really, do these types of things, train the team and get them up to speed on different skills. One of them was on what we called stay conversations. So that's kind of an interesting concept, right? You think about when an employee leaves, you're kind of having an exit interview. Well, we kind of call this a stay interview. And so I think that's really powerful, because what it means is I'm actually engaging with you and I want to find out, well, I really value you. You're doing an amazing job on these 3 things. Help me understand what I can be doing to have you here for the next 2-3 years. That's a stay interview, not an exit interview.
It's proactively reaching out to your customers or your employees who are already succeeding and understanding how to take that to the next level and make sure that they're being nurtured.
And you're really teaching your managers to put it on the map. It's so often that we just assume, like we do with customers, oh, the customer's fine. The customer's great. They're adopted, so they must be okay, right? I mean, data looks like everything's on, but we're not having challenging questions.
Catherine, thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me here.
This has been awesome. Another great episode of Successfully Live.